Hi, and welcome to Inside View. I am your host, Joel Metzger, and joining me on the show today is Chris Wright, who is the District 2 Calaveras County Supervisor. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's glad to have you. Glad to have you on the show. We have some interesting topics tonight that we're going to try to get to, and we'll see how many we can actually get done. But before we get to those, I just wanted to introduce you to anyone who may not have had the chance to make your acquaintance. So, what's your backstory?
Okay, my 30-second bio. I grew up in both Calaveras County and Amador County. My family has owned property here for 4 generations, going back to the turn of the century. My claim to fame is I was the first graduating, part of the first graduating class of Toyon Middle School. And then my mom and dad wanted to be farther apart. I moved to over to Amador County and graduated from Amador High. I eventually got a degree from Humboldt State University. I worked as a planner, worked as executive director for the Foothill Conservancy, a local environmental group in Amador and Calaveras County. And then in 2012 was elected as District 2 Supervisor, which is the upcountry districts along the northern boundaries. The McCallum River goes from Paloma all the way up to Sheep Ranch and includes Calvaritas and everything in between.
I think that was one of the finer 30-second descriptions I've ever heard. So nice job.
I've been working on it.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, how's it been so far? You've been a supervisor for more than 2 years, and
almost 2.5 years. Yeah.
What are you thinking about the position, and is it what you expected it to be?
It is pretty much what I expected it to be. You know, the thing about local government is that it's a status quo kind of process, status quo body, and so there's never going to be much radical change that goes on at the local government. And as long as you're okay with how things are, then local government does fine. It's just that when you're trying to deal with challenges such as we were just coming out of in the Great Recession, it's really hard for local government to make those changes that, you know, that on the fly that may need to happen. And so I think that's been the hardest thing for me to deal with, is just how slow government really does work, and just how much your hands are really tied as a local supervisor with many of the issues. They're really national or state issues that have been pretty much discarded because they were too challenging by those guys, and then we have to deal with them because we're the last line of government. And so it's a very challenging position, but we have had some things you know, moving forward, like we have the Ponderosa Road off of Highway 26 that goes down to the McCallum River. I used to go down there as a kid. Great swimming hole, and that road has been pretty banged up for years. We got the funding for that, and the gate installation has started, and the culverts and the grading will go on this summer. So then you and I and our families, you know, we can all go down there and enjoy that great asset. And so that's one example of a lot of different people involved, helping out, partnering, making that happen. And the other thing is just keeping things open, like the libraries. You know, we've kept through this budget process, having to cut quite a bit. We've been able to keep the libraries open and functioning thanks to the great support of the community members, Friends of the Library, the Library Commission, and now in West Point there was a need to change the building that was there, and really a need to include more of the school as part of that. So we've come up with a solution there. So hopefully we'll finalize that in the next month or two to keep the library up there open and also functioning in partnership with the West Point Elementary School, which will help bring those kids the library to them and keep the library open for the public. And I have to say, the Friends of the Library, the West Point Library, and part of the countywide Friends, Bob Dean, helped out a lot with you know, making that happen. So it's you know, that's I think pretty successful that we've been able to, you know, at least keep those those things going on.
No, that's awesome. And jumping back to Ponderosa,
Sure.
At one point, was there a way to actually get across the river and go into Amador from there?
Yeah, sure. I remember going over there a couple times as a kid. You used to be able to drive over the bridge and up over into Highway 88 eventually. Yeah.
And what happened there?
Well, I think the maintenance was the issue, and then eventually they closed it, and then there was a fire that burnt up the bridge, and so it just fell in disrepair. Nobody wanted to take ownership of the bridge and the Amador side. Calaveras, we as a county, that's our county maintain. We're supposed to maintain that road as a county road. That's why we're still involved with it. But over in Amador, it wasn't the same way. So that was kind of the problem. Because but I'm happy if we can just get that road graded and have another access point to the river, because that's one of the better assets we have here is the river and the open space. And so if we don't have access to those areas, we really don't have a lot going on.
Now, I know Pat McGreevy at one point was kind of looking at some trail system opportunities. Now, I thought that was one of the areas he was kind of considering. Is there anything that might happen with trails down there too? Or?
There's McGreevy is still working hard. He was one of the key leaders in making this happen with Ponderosa Road, as well as helping reopen Shad's Reservoir up on the middle fork of the McCollum, up a little bit higher in elevation above Wilseyville a few miles. Great little lake up there, a little reservoir up there, CPUD reservoir. For years they had a little resort up there, campground, and then that went under, and you couldn't even drive back there. And so that was one of the campaign issues, actually. I had never, even though my family's property is just down the road from there, I'd never gone there at all. And so I get a call from an old fisherman. He's like, "Hey, what the hell? Why can't I get access to my fishing hole anymore? I can't walk, but I still want to be able to drive out there." And so with the help of McGreevy and a group of volunteers, Joe Pellegrino from Mountain Ranch, we were able to grade that road, and so now it's even being stocked with trout out there again, so people can go out and use that as well. And that is, a lot of that was done with a lot of McGreevy's work on that.
He has a boundless energy. It seems like he's incredible. So I wanted to touch base with you on the general plan, but before we get into that, I just kind of wanted to know just about your general, philosophy on what a supervisor is. And I know each person tends to look at it a little differently, but what would you say your kind of main responsibilities are?
Well, I think you can make it, it's kind of one of those jobs you can make it whatever you want to a certain degree. I tend to be one that thinks the supervisor's job is to try to ensure the government is running, is the bottom line. The doors are open, and things like the libraries remain open. Mm-hmm. We have more parks, or the ones that we have are open. There's deputies that are on the street or on the beat. That the basic functions of government are working in an effective way, and I think that's the bottom line for me. I'm not at all a micromanager. I'm more of a hands-off. Look, you're doing a great job. Excellent. Looks good. I'll move on to the next project, and that's my style. Other people, they want to be, right there, digging the ditches and, trying to bust the meth houses and, going to every event that they can go to, and that's great. It's just that's not my style. Mine's much more of a laid-back, approach, and I think it's just my personality.
So let's dive into the general plan. I mean, obviously, this has been a long process, and well before your time on the board, this has been being worked on. In fact, I don't know exactly how long it goes back. Maybe you? Yeah,
right around 2000, the end of 2005 and 2006.
Wow.
So it's been almost 10 years, in some form or another.
Can you just maybe tell folks what is the general plan, and why is it important, and why is this update important?
Sure. Well, the general plan is your basic kind of land use constitution for the county. The state mandates that we have an updated general plan There's 7 basic elements that the general plan is supposed to address, and the basic idea is how I like to do it in a nutshell, because it can be very complex, is the general plan is supposed to tell you, supposed to help direct where your communities are going to grow, and how they're going to grow in a time period like 20, 25 years, based on the input of the citizens living in that county. And so that's where you say over here, this is a, Copperopolis area. There's a whole bunch of development that wants to go in there. So that's, where the general plan puts tries to put the 40,000 people or whatever it is, and up in most of District 2, very few people want to see 40,000 people in District 2, so there you'll have a different type of plan. And that's why with the previous supervisor, Walensky, really helped each of the communities up there develop their own community plans for the general plan.
So this is this guide, which is very important if anything's going to happen in the county. If it's not updated and current, what would be some of the disadvantages to kind of having it stagnate and not be updated?
Well, the biggest disadvantage, besides the fact that you would like to be able to plan for your community. I mean, the idea behind general plan is that if you if you want to have 40,000 people down in Copperopolis, then you're going to need roads, sewer, water, schools, police, all the things that you need for the community. And so ideally, the general plan would address all those things. And so if you don't have that plan and somebody is just like, I want to build, I bought 5,000 acres of farmland real cheap and I want to make money off of it, and I go down to the county and I get 3 votes from the supervisors, and then there's the development. And so it's haphazard, there's no plan, and there may be no infrastructure to support that development. So ideally, the general plan would be able to address all those issues. And then, so there's that, kind of like you need a plan if you want to live in the modern world. And then the other side is, if you don't have a plan, then anything you do that's any type of growth and development that requires a discretionary permit from the Board of Supervisors or Planning Commission can be challenged in court because we have a deficient plan.
So does it almost like put the county in a straitjacket in terms of really doing anything new?
I don't know, I wouldn't say that, but you definitely want to finish updating the general plan. Okay. It's one of those things you have to do.
And then things change, and so there must be like is there a regular interval when it might be revisited? How often is that supposed to be?
It's supposed to be updated as needed, actually.
Okay.
But that's why you have the 20 to 25 year span is kind of what people have agreed on but things do change rapidly. So every 5 years or so you do want to kind of check back in and see are we meeting the goals that we had, the goals and policies and the implementation measures that we had in our old general plan. And now ours is so out of date that it's not really at all a functioning general plan.
So can you shed some light on why the process has taken as long as it has, almost 10 years?
I think there's multiple reasons that are going on there. One is that halfway in between we went through the real estate bubble. So you had the beginning of the change of the general plan. You had this incredible growth going on throughout the country, and then that bubble burst, and everything changed, and so did our general plan process. At the same time, you had changeover in the leadership at the county, the Board of Supervisors, and the planning director. So all of those things combined has led to what we have today.
What is the outlook on when we might have a new update done?
Well, I think we're going to, in June, we will have, most likely June, there'll be a report back to the board by the planning director on the status, and then he'll lay out the time frame of where we're at there. So I think within by the end of 2016, we will be close. But
That's awesome.
yeah, I don't, yeah, I don't believe
No
it.
promises, though, right?
I don't.
Oh, and then the discussion about community plans. We don't want to forget that because
Yes.
I know there are different opinions on that. So, what is that discussion about?
Sure. Well, in the old general plan, the one that is our current general plan, there are community plans in there. Like McCollum Hill, Arnold, Murphy's have community plans, and my predecessor went through and developed community plans for all the different 8 communities in District 2. McCollum Hill is the most developed plan, and basically it's just like a town plan. And you have the whole county that you're planning for, and here you're planning for just that town. And so it really helps the people of Moke Hill or the people of Mountain Ranch, people of San Andreas, be able to focus on how they want their town to look in 20 to 25 years. And it really it's good for, especially in the unincorporated areas, we have no city council. So, it really helps to have kind of an empowerment of being able to control your own destiny kind of thing, democracy in action, if you will. So it was a really good idea, and District 2 spent countless hours developing these plans with the help of past planning directors, staff, and they came up with them, and they were actually approved by the Planning Commission and signed off by the Board of Supervisors before Steve Walensky left office. So they're there, they're complete, and then what happened is there was so much changeover since then that they were kind of forgotten about. And so the new planning director came on board and was like, oh, we're not going to do these. And then and we're like, what do you mean? We've already done them. And so now we've been kind of bringing him up to speed on how much work has been done on them already. And so now we're hoping that they can be included in a chapter, like one of the elements that's a community plan, neighborhood plan element that will you can update easily. You can stick in like other ones when they need to be updated, like Copperopolis and Valley Springs, and it's just it's a chapter in the general plan for all of the community plans. So we're hopeful that those all can be included in this update because people have spent so much time and energy on it. It just seems like a no-brainer. We should put them in there. So
Gotcha. Okay, so another big issue in your district is water. The Mokelumne River is, the border of Calaveras and very much a part of your neck of the woods. And there's been discussion about drought and also about that section of river. So just the larger issue of water in general, are there some concerns that the county has or that your district has in particular about water that you're being made aware of? Or?
Well, sure. I mean, it's on everybody's mind. The one thing that I'm really interested in is developing better research on what are fractured rock wells, because that's where a majority of my district is on wells, not CPUD or CCWD pipelines. And so, and we don't have, it's not like the aquifer down in San Joaquin where they're basically one giant aquifer and everybody's sticking straws into it. Here, there's all these little tiny pockets of water scattered throughout the entire district. And you could have one that can go dry right over here and the one that's, only 100 yards or 200 yards away can be perfectly fine. And so I want to know how much water is there actually there. And as far as I can tell, Brian Moss has some idea, but we don't really have the precise measurement on how much water these wells have. And so far, during this fourth year in drought, we're okay as far as wells going dry. I have not heard a lot of reports back on that happening, and so that's good. But I'm worried about it, and so I'd like to find out what we're really dealing with.
Yeah, and to that point, the Department of Water Resources is rolling out a program this summer that's going to help folks out who do have their wells go dry and make sure that they can either be delivered water or, even in the extreme, if it's not a livable situation anymore, provide them with some help to find a better situation, even if it's on a temporary basis. And I know that the local media will probably be a partner in getting that information out to your community and the county at large. So that's one that maybe can give people some hope if they end up being in a bad situation.
Yeah, I think that will be good, because we just don't know. As far as I know, nobody knows.
Yeah.
So.
So the main water source in your area is the McCollum, and that's one of the three main water systems in Calaveras County. And there's been a lot of discussion about the McCollum lately and what the future is going to hold with it, and whether it's going to be named Wild and Scenic or whether it won't be. And I know that you've been involved at a board level on that, and I was just curious if you could update the folks on what's going on with that discussion.
Sure. Well, first, wild and scenic designation. Basically, the McCollum River is already heavily dammed. I mean, starting in our county, the Comanche Reservoir, and then up from that upstream is the Pardee Reservoir, and then you just keep going up, Electra, the West Point Diversion, Salt Springs Reservoir, and lots of other dams on the tributaries. So there's something like 16 dams on the McCollum. And so, but it's a gorgeous river still in between those. And so the basic idea with wild and scenic is you don't let you keep those other parts of the river, such as the river that Ponderosa Road goes down to. You keep those open and undammed. And so the Wild and Scenic Act is the only real piece of legislation that exists to do that. And so if you designate these stretches of the McCollum River where there's not a dam, then you protect them from future dams. And you can do it on a federal level or a state level. And most recently, we've been talking about the state level. And last year, we passed through the state Senate SB 1199, which would have designated the McCollum Wild and Scenic. It was stopped in appropriations by the Assembly, and so that bill died. This year we have AB 142 that my board has supported and went to committee and passed through the Natural Resources Committee because there was compromise reached on language between the environmental side and kind of and Frank Bigelow's office on what amendments they wanted to see there. And so that was a compromise reached. That's why it passed through the Natural Resources Committee, and now it's at the Appropriations Committee.
So if AB 142 does end up going through, what would that mean?
Yeah, it's a study bill. So yeah, basically the idea is to study. Okay, because one of the concerns that the water districts have, is that they want to make sure that even though there's really no plans to put a dam in those stretches of river on a local level, but they're worried about the language in the Wild and Scenic Act, and so they want to make sure there's even with Wild and Scenic designation, you can still get the water that they need for growth. And so the idea is the study bill would look at that as well as the fact that the river is wild and scenic and eligible based on the criteria set forward by the state. And so that's where you get kind of the compromise. So my hope is that we can move forward with the study. We can take a look, say, look, we can have plenty of water, access to plenty of water, and we don't have to dam any more of the river, and that way we get everybody on the same page, and we can move forward with protecting that. Because what will happen eventually is that out of county water interests will look back to the McCollum again. It's happened multiple times over the years, and as we see now, the water is very valuable, and so you'll end up having a powerful water interest that can overwhelm any of our interests. I mean, if you look at the river right now, I mean, Salt Springs Reservoir, Lower Bear, those are PG&E dams, not controlled by any local interest. And then lower down you have Pardee and Comanche controlled by the East Bay. So it's already happened, and that's the future for the McCollum unless we do something to stop it that checks those more powerful interests. And that's why we have to get Wild and Scenic designation on there. I actually prefer federal Wild and Scenic designation because then that can stop any of the interest even more powerful than the state one. But I'm happy that we have a compromise on 142. And the good thing is it actually, I sit on the Upper McCollum River Watershed Authority, which is the counties of Amador, Calaveras, and the water districts, as well as East Bay Mud. And we voted last Friday to pony up $100,000 for this study, so it would help get it out of appropriations so there'd be money for the study. So.
Yeah, because the state always doesn't have money for everything, so that might kind of kick them along toward.
Yes, that's our hope. Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting debate, and lots of different opinions on that. So it sounds like that compromise was it's nice to see when two parties with different opinions can come together and form some form of agreement. So I guess that was probably refreshing to see to some extent.
Yeah. I mean, if we can all work it out, then I think there's a better chance that we can move forward on this rather than just every few years having a fight one way or another over it. So it would be good to get that worked out, because I think there is room for especially coming off of Pardee Reservoir or even Comanche. The Calaveras County has water rights and our water reservations, and so we can maybe negotiate with East Bay Mud on putting a pipe into Pardee, and it's just a matter of what does that look like. So I think there's room for us to get more water if we need it. Going forward.
Gotcha.
I personally don't want to see it go towards 40,000 new houses in our county. I mean, I'd rather see that water go to ag or something along those lines with a mixture of houses. But that's where you have the connection between the water and the general plan and land use.
And we'll see how the drought impacts all of this.
Yes.
Lots to be seen. So we only have about 3 minutes, but I just wanted you to just let people know what's the status of the debate about marijuana in the county. The board recently kind of made a decision on how they're going to proceed with that.
Okay, sure. Basically, marijuana is, I actually compare it to the gay marriage issue, because it's moving from state to state and through the courts. And basically Congress has done nothing, or DC as a whole has really done nothing about that issue, just like you see with marijuana. It goes to Colorado, Washington, DC are all passing state ballot initiatives. So instead of doing something on a national level, which we need to do, ends up being passed to the state. The state's doing it passes to us. But the state is going to do something in 2016. So anything that we try to do now is going to be superseded or changed. It's going to be stalled, first of all, by litigation. And then by the time we actually are able to do anything, the state will have most likely enacted legislation through the initiative process in 2016. So that's why you saw us not passing any or starting to work on this new ordinance, because it would be a waste of time and resources. And it's unfortunate that it ends up that way, but that's like I said in the very beginning of this. A lot of times our hands are tied with these important issues.
Absolutely. So that's kind of the update on marijuana, and I guess there are certainly many other things going on in your district. We hope to have you back on, in the near future. Although it won't be a weekly show, I promise. And we'll get.
I don't mind a yearly show; is fine.
Yearly show's okay with you?
That's
okay.
good.
If anyone wants to, get a hold of you, how would they do that, or where would they find you?
They can give me a call at 304-3729.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you for joining me on this edition of Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and I hope you join me next time.